I actually had a very similar conversation this week about hourly rates and the opportunity that there is in being an online coach right now, because there's so little governance over it so that anyone can do it. And especially if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably in the fitness industry enough where you could probably do it. And if you break it down by an hourly rate, it's all about the business that you build and the systems that you have in place. We know plenty of people that have a ton of clients, and the more efficient you can be in servicing your clients and do so while still continuing to do it at a high value to them. Average coaching prices for an online coach, I'd say low end 200, maybe not even the high end, but like 2 to 400 is probably average in the United States, in North America. People check in with their clients once a week, takes 15 minutes. If you do the rough math on that, you're making $200 to $400 an hour. So if you have the initiative and the systems in place and you work on your business, you don't need a huge following. You don't need millions of followers. You don't need to be these people getting brand deals and sponsorships. If you can work and you're responsible and you can add value and you give a shit about what you do, you have 40 clients at $300 an hour. What's that? That's 12 grand a month. Easy. Yeah. So it's very obtainable. It's very tangible. You just need to look at the opportunity that's posed to you. And like, that's what the internet is. That's what social media is. You can build a business that's going to be a great business for you. And if you have the mind and the freedom that you have created for yourself to not just service your clients, but also work on the business, then you can start to scale that and you can build yourself a really lucrative business just by being good at what you're doing, having that responsibility, having good systems in place. And you don't need a huge following. You just need to understand that these people, you have access to, if you have an Instagram business account, it tells you how many people see your account every single month. Like maybe it's tens of thousands of people. Maybe it's hundreds of thousands of people. That's all potential customers. They're people that are somewhat, at least peripherally interested in what you have to say. So if you can capitalize on that and you can take initiative, then there's so much potential in this. There's so much potential. And it doesn't have to be, the people we know their names.
Well, I just think if you're worried about content, you'll never get there. You'll never get there. Like I think if you hire, and look, I don't know what business coaches do. This is our experience. This is not to right. Paraphrase Kyle Mackey. This is not medical advice. This is not business advice. This is just two guys who have gone through it. And I'm concerned, putting it nicely, about business coaches and their first point of advice, counsel, is about content creation. If the first couple of calls, and look, do whatever, and I disclaim this. One, I'm an idiot. Great. Got that out of the way. You should be well aware if you've been around this podcast.
That's like giving someone advice and then at the end saying, but what do I know?
Yes. No, but at the end of the day, it's like, look, I just disclaim that so people don't think I'm telling them and to do anything. Because in a weird way, right. People like, Ricky Gervais did this joke once. I saw him at Sony Theater in Los Angeles, and I spent every last dime I had at the time to I think I had to rent a car to drive to LA because the vehicle I owned wasn't trustworthy enough to drive to Los Angeles from San Francisco and back. And I spent my last red cent on going to see him. And he had a joke about like comments on the internet. And just like, imagine putting up like a free guitar lesson thing with like a phone number and a little cut pieces with the phone. So you're like walking through the park, you see it stapled to a tree, like, oh, free guitar lessons. And imagine like taking that and then going home and calling the person and then yelling at them like, fuck you, you suck at guitar. Like, what? So it's like, I'm so tired of that. Like, there's this one fucking guy, and not to go on a tangent, there's this guy who like, I'll put up a post about something, and this is business advice. This particular business is because it's just don't respond to trolls. There's this guy, and I'm not going to give him any more airtime. I don't delete his comments. I just let other people just go like, dude, are you stupid? And he negatively comments on I think he has notifications on. Like, he's the first in every single time. And my
I hate this
advice to
guy.
people is, dude, he's the worst because he's fundamentally wrong. Like, homeboy, I've been doing
Mm,
this. Like, trust me. You
yeah.
trust me with the stuff I'm putting out. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm onto something. Like, you run a small PT gym in, I'm not even going to say the country because it's going to give it away, and I don't want to give this guy any credit. But if you guys go on to my post, there's a guy who's just like consistently shit talking to you. You just look dumb. So I want to avoid backlash because I just don't have the bandwidth to like introduce that into my life. If your business coach's first thing is taking a look at your social media, that's not business. That's not. And it's,
Right.
look, there is a, and you said this to me. I actually quoted you the other day, and I thought it was the day we released the L3. And I was in Chicago, and I said, I remember Jordan saying way back in reference to you, and you were talking about what your father had told you. And it's like, you don't have a business until you make money when you sleep. And that stuck with me for 10 years. We've been in business because some days I feel like we have a job we made for ourselves. And that's something that I fight against day in and day out because we both work extremely hard, extremely long hours in the business. But there are days where we put courses for sale, and with the level 3 especially, like, there's a lot of excitement around it, and rightfully so. And I don't usually sleep those nights that goes up for sale. And then I get like this slight lightning bolt of reassurance. It's like, oh, I woke up and they're okay. And I think about what you told me. And when I tell that to coaches, because it's like, look, it's okay. And Bax did a really good podcast on this on RX when he was on a few months back. I would definitely suggest go listen to it. It's okay to have a job for yourself, right? Especially if you're a coach, you're in the service industry. But if you ever want a business, businesses are systems fundamentally, right? And if you are hiring a business, if you want to hire a job coach for the job you have for yourself, then sure, the job coach might be like, hey, create content. A business coach should be talking to you about systems, right? And whether it's even just improving the deployment of your service, like you had talked about, like, can we make the check-in process more efficient? But if we know we are hog-tied to, as someone who exists in the service industry, trading time for money, can we maximize the amount of money we can trade for per unit time? And I just see this behavior, and it's so misguided in chasing the wrong metric. It's like, if you build systems, you can actually build a business from a service or a job you create for yourself. So I would advise, if you are even, and I would say even, but like, coaching has a very forward facing, you have to be there job aspect to it. You can begin to scale that into something that looks more like a business, or has elements to it that look more like a business rather than a job you have for yourself.
I think one of the fundamental things about that is breaking the way that you think of the relationship between time and money, right? Which is pretty much what you were saying. But I think people think in the term of dollars per hour, right? Or this is my salary to work 40 hours per week. And especially coming from a lot of the people that we're talking to or that are in this space are coming from personal training, where my rate is X amount of dollars per hour. Until you can break that relationship, it's not a business, right? It should be, I'm going to do this work to build this system that will continually run and create money or create some sort of revenue so that I can build the next thing and build the next thing. If you always have to have touch points on these things, or if it's something that, which we talk about a lot, if you can't hand off to someone that's not you, then you're not building business systems. You're creating a job for yourself, and you're creating multiple jobs. So it's not about creating more work for yourself, and it shouldn't be more work equals more money. It's more systems equals more money. So if these systems can work without you, then that's a business. If these systems need you, then that's a job.